Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm just going to give.
Okay. Yep. Okay, before we start, we do have a quorum here. There's three of us. Amber and Meg are not able to attend today. And before we start, Jonathan, I see you're in the audience representing Sunset Beach. We're going to talk about that next week, okay? We didn't put it on the agenda, so rather than add it at the last minute, we'll put it on for next week if that's okay with you.
Sure. Do you want me to hop off?
You're welcome to stay if you want. We're just not gonna, no, you can stay as long as you want. We're just not going to discuss it today.
Okay. Just let me know do you know when the next meeting will be?
Next Tuesday's.
Wednesday at 1.
Next Wednesday at 1:00.
Right, Dottie?
Is that right, Dot? Yes, next Wednesday, 1 p.m. And
Amazing.
I promise you'll be on the agenda.
Amazing. We'll see you guys then. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
Cheers.
Okay, the first thing on the agenda is the housing plan update. We asked the chairman of JFAB to come and join us, Liz Hanley. Stephen, you want to give us a quick,
Yeah, so basically she's going to give us a status update on a community housing plan. As you're aware, we created a community housing fund, which is earmarked solely for monies in connection with the creation of community housing opportunities. But before we could spend a penny out of that fund, we need to have a community housing plan. So the plan, we hired the consultant that's going to work with JFAB to develop said plan. It's supposed to take into account public investment, development, conservation, coordination, community design, transportation, consistency, community collaboration. And it's going to be, once it's done, it's going to be incorporated into the comprehensive plan. And a key component of it is to ensure that any monies that are expended in connection with community housing are perpetually affordable. It doesn't have to include a map, and I don't think it probably will in our case, but it may include a map. So I just wanted to reset your memory on what we're talking about.
Okay.
well, yours, Liz.
Sure. All right. So I just wanted to give an update. We're working. So I wanted to kind of go through the draft outline, and I apologize that I don't have a presentation, but these are like very live documents that we're working with. And so I'm just going to kind of run you through what the community housing plan outline is going to look like just verbally. So the first, there's going to be 5 sections. The first is going to be like an introduction. The second section is going to be existing conditions and the needs assessment. The third section is going to be community housing goals and objectives. The fourth section is going to be their analysis of those first 2 or 2 and 3. And number 5 is going to be the recommendations that are going to come from that. So what we are working on currently is 2 and 3. Right. So the consultant in the background, Kathy and Taylor, are working on analyzing our existing conditions and doing a needs assessment. So that's happening in the background. I'm connecting them with sources to the police department and just getting them the information that they need. The other thing that we're working with them directly on is getting the community housing goals and objectives. Now, as we talked about before, this has to be developed with town input. And so that kind of brings me to the big project that we're working on over at JFAB, which is how to get said public input. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to be having 2 open houses. One is going to be on July 16th, 3 to 5 at the library. The other one is going to be August 6th at the Presbyterian Church. If we start to think that the venues are going to be too small, I will up that. But
Same
that's,
time for the church?
yes, yeah. Same time, working on designing an ad, go on the website. Chief Reed has offered to put it out on the marquee thing. So really trying to get the word out there. For those folks that are not going to be able to join us in person on those days, the entire open house and the whole experience will be mirrored online. And so that they will have a chance to go to a digital open house and give their feedback that way. It will be exactly the same information, asking the same exact questions.
So Liz, will you make a presentation at the open house or are they coming?
Glad you asked. So what we're going to do is we are going to do something a little bit different. So instead of it being a presentation, this is something, an idea that the consultant had suggested, and I actually think is pretty cool. To have it as an open house with different stations. So people can come by anytime between 3 and 6 and kind of go through the different stations and give their feedback at each one. So there'll be a CHFAB and probably a comp plan member there to kind of, give color. There's going to be like poster boards and presentation. Again, these will be mirrored online. And, to answer any questions that maybe you don't see, that folks might have about those. And then there'll be an opportunity for input at each station. So, what do you feel about rental houses? Like, who do you think needs them? How big should they be? Like, what should they be a townhome? Should they be a whatever? You know what I mean? Like, it'll be there. You have the ability to give input at each of the stations.
I like it.
Yeah, but it's not going to be somebody sitting at a podium talking and then other people coming up. What we really wanted to do, I know this can be an issue that people feel really passionately about on all sides. But what I think is really important is that we hear from everyone. So we really tried to work hard to design a process so that those folks that maybe don't feel as comfortable coming up and talking, at a podium like this, their voices are really important it's really important that we hear them and we get their input. And so that we're really hearing from everyone. And so that's how we're going to be designing the feedback process. As part of that, it's going to be, I'm still working it out exactly with the consultant. Thank goodness they have a lot of experience in this. But basically what it'll be is there'll be kind of a feedback form or a series of like little cards or something like that. And you will give your name and address, right? This will not be released, but it'll allow us to just make sure that I just only have like one set of feedback from you and one from you. So you can't, you could just kind of only do it once, right? And then the other thing is being able to have that response written. What I'm hoping is that it will allow us to be more objective in evaluating that. Because I know sometimes we can all walk away from public meetings where people speak with different impressions of what happens. And so we'll be able to take that written feedback back to our consultants to kind of work out and consolidate and just really be able to have people put down their own words and what they really think about it and not have that translated through anybody else. So that's kind of our idea.
Are the two open houses going to be different agendas or are they going to be the
It's going to be the same. I mean, my thought is that we'll probably learn things from number one. So, but the idea is it's going to be exactly the same format. And again, that's going to be mirrored. It's going to be an online, how we're imagining it is it'll be kind of like a couple slides that you click through and then you're able to give the feedback. Whereas like in person, you might go up and like look at a poster board and like fill out an index card so that we're getting the same set of information from everyone that goes through. That's kind of the idea. So I don't know what you guys think about it, but that's where we're starting.
Sounds great.
I like it.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's good.
So I wanted to also, I'm going to run you just really briefly through our outline. I guess I would like to say, I believe you all have this in your inboxes and I would love your feedback on it. I think the more minds on this, the smarter and better we're going to be. This is, we are going to do this July 16th. So sooner's better, right? And the Chafab board is working on this diligently. So I'm going to kind of run you through the stations of how we're going to do this. So what we decided is we're going to start with the first stations are going to be, and imagine they're going to be kind of like big tables with like poster boards on them, right? So the first station is going to be like a welcome station and just kind of explaining how the heck it works, right? The second station is we're going to talk about our parameters around smart growth, right? So we're going to talk about TDRs, how water and sewer work, environmental building, what is smart growth and how do we have to follow that? Because I feel like we're just going to kind of set the stage. So that's going to be a little bit more informative, but definitely there'll be feedback, of things that maybe questions people have about what we've said or, maybe that we haven't answered. So that'll be good to know. Then we're going to move to just a quick one on background information, what the heck it is. If folks haven't been reading their paper or aren't up on it, the transfer tax, how the housing fund works, which you worked us through. And again, an opportunity to give feedback on questions that we didn't answer or just questions that people might have or feedback about it. Okay. Then we're going to kind of move from the information giving to the real input part. So we're going to kind of go to the fourth station. It's going to start with who needs housing. So we're going to present there some of our initial findings on the needs assessment. Now, it's not going to be totally complete by this time, but we should have some real chunks of data, right, that we can kind of talk about. So we're going to talk about what we found so far. And then this is where we're going to really start the reaching out to the community of just like, hey, what's your experience? What are the things that you think we need? What are the communities that you think need to be served here, right? So we're going to go into that station 4. We're kind of working out now, obviously, then we go to community housing fund uses. So we kind of run through what we can use and get the community's input on what we think we should do with it. Like this is our menu of options. What do you think works for our community, right? And then we kind of move into, we're kind of still working this out, whether it should be case studies and preference, or are the case studies our examples? So this is, like I said, this is like a very live document. Again, I would love your input on this. But yeah, that last section, station rather, it's going to be probably quite large and kind of go through, these are the options of things that we can do. These are the options of things that are feasible or possible, right? And then getting the community's input on, what do you guys think? Like, do you think we should do this? Do you like townhomes? Do you like cottages? Like, like those kinds of things. And then, so that's the opportunity, kind of present them robustly, perhaps with images and examples from different communities. So you can really kind of imagine that, pulling out some architectural renderings, stuff like that. And then that is going to be the real chance for people to give, tell us what they like.
Liz, can I ask you about the sort of, I think you meant it as the 6th, but I wasn't sure if it was part of the 5th. So just the part where you said case studies.
Oh yeah. So I will tell you, so we're trying to figure out if those are together or they're separate. So there's been discussion in the board of maybe the case studies are examples that we're using in the preferences.
Examples from other towns or from this town? Like, we've lost these people because,
Yeah, so what we're talking about is in reference to the case studies, what we're talking about is like case studies and solutions, right? So, in East Hampton, I think it was, they did those farmhouse buildings with like a bunch of different kinds of units.
That would be under who needs housing, that category.
No, this would be under what is like our preference or what they should look like.
And would that also address like sort of the financial structure? Like, because I tell you, people have come up to me and said, how are you going to keep it affordable? Or,
Right.
That sort of thing. So the case studies maybe include the restrictions that other towns have placed or.
Yeah, I think that like I said, that last station is going to be big, right? Because we're kind of We have to give our preferences on rental versus for sale. How do we address senior home, right? You know what I mean? There's what's the best financial setup? You know, should we have a public-private partnership? What do we think about having the town man? You know, like there's like I said, that station's going to be really big. And so we're definitely, that's one of our charge for the next 3 weeks. And we could really desperately use your feedback because we want to be able to present that as succinctly as possible to be able to get people's feedback, right? You know, so there's going to be like, you know, architectural, what types of housing, financial systems, for how to do it, all those things.
You're not going to get into specific locations or areas on the island, right? Or is it? Address that?
I don't think that we're going to get that specific, but, you know, I do think that we'll probably have to address, you know, areas in general. Right?
Because I'm kind of confused. Is this going to be like a trade show where you go from table to table to table, or
Yes, sir. That is exactly what it's going to be
you
like.
have to go in order? Because
You don't have
a lot of
to.
people waiting there, you know.
Well, it's going to be an open house, so not everybody has to come in at the same time. But yeah, if you wanted to start with station 4, you could.
And would it be, all right, so the four of us come, I'm involved in a discussion. Do they have to wait till I'm done, or is it gonna be like, let's all sit around and talk, or?
So it's going to be, there's going to be members of Chabab and the Concord at each station. So hopefully being able to have multiple discussions because there'll be multiple people there. And so maybe you have 2 questions about the financial aspects of the housing fund, and then perhaps you have 6, right? So I might be able to answer your questions, and it may, you know, it needs to sit there longer and kind of address all of yours.
Mhm.
Yeah. Again, what we're really trying to do is make sure that there's an opportunity for everyone to be heard and not just those folks who feel most comfortable at a podium and with a microphone. And so, you know, like I said, we're looking for feedback on how to make this the best we can. So definitely we welcome especially this board's input. But this was kind of our solution. We just felt that in conversation with the board and I think the consultant, that how we have been doing some of this, where it's just like a presentation with one person talking and other people coming up and giving comments, is just not going to give us the level and the depth of feedback from the breadth of the community that we really need. We really need to hear from a lot of people to take that input from these 2 sessions on the online versions to kind of come back to our housing plan and consolidate all of it. We just need, the more people we have, the better housing plan we can develop, because we got to listen to kind of like the wisdom of the community, not just those among us who are the loudest. You know?
I'm just a little concerned about the logistics that it's, I understand, you know, the input and the information going back and forth that you're gonna hear from everybody. I don't know, I'm just.
Well, you know, I share that, a little bit of that concern. So it's July 16th when we start the library.
Yeah.
So we have 3 weeks to prepare for this,
Yeah.
or almost 3 weeks anyhow. I would love to be able to sit down and then not too distant future, maybe come in and brainstorm this a little bit. Because I could see, you know, the 5 stations, people getting to the station number 5 and housing options and really wanting, you know, for me to sit here with that one person and go through an exhaustive list of housing options, and this is what surrounding neighbors, and this is what that looks like. And then that person dismisses after 10, 12 minutes of getting all those up. Next person coming in. Again, it depends on the flow of people. But if you get a heavy flow of people, that station 5 of housing options, if you're going to say it to one person, you could say it just as easily to 5 or 6 people and say, listen, and I'm going to answer all your questions, but I'm going to make a short little presentation on some of those options to the 5 or 6 of you, or 10 of you, however are there. And then if you have specific questions on any of these options or comments, let's just create and maybe you can time that in at, if you're going 3 to 6.
Yes.
Yeah. So at 3:45, that table 5, that's an option there, 4:45 and a 5:45. You have different times where you can kind of give an overall view of all of the options that are available, because that's kind of exciting for people. The other stuff is very important information in terms of smart growth, background information, who needs housing and all that kind of stuff. But people are going to want to know what it looks like. And the second thing is, where is it going? So we have to be prepared for that question about where do you think it's going? Well, initially, our first couple of projects will probably be centered in this particular area. Well, look, it's not that we're bound to this, but we're starting and being honest and straightforward with people where we think that the initial first couple of projects might be going. Again, this is not all going to be launched at once. You're not going to be overwhelmed by it. We're going to learn as we phase in phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. But I would think with option 5, if you get established time, maybe it's 3:30, 4:30, and 5:30, whenever that is.
Absolutely. I think what we're also planning on doing, again, is there's going to be huge presentations on the walls.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And probably what we're talking about, consultant, is handouts at every station.
Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
you're just like, wait, what did she say about blah, 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 blah? You can go home and look through the piece of paper that has all this information on it again.
Yes.
So there's going to be, what we plan is to deliver the information in multiple ways. And again, the information will also be available online. So if you just spent too long at the beach and you got to station 5 and you're like, I've got sunstroke, I can't do it. You can go and revisit the whole thing again online.
Yeah.
So again, really trying to deliver, but the thing that I think is important is consistency. And so delivering the same information on handouts, on poster boards, online, it's the same. If you go to give your feedback online, you're going to see the same stuff and be presented with the same information as if you were able to be there in person. Because I know that it's going to be challenging for some of our year-round residents. They're not here during the summer, and some of our summer residents are busy. So how do we make it accessible?
I love the idea, but I am concerned about Jerry's concerns, and I think we need to kind of think that through a little bit. And the other thing I'm concerned about is they're both Saturdays, and it's 3 to 6. I tell you, on a summer Saturday, when you just mentioned beach, people are going to be there. They're dragging people away at 2:30 to come to something like this. I almost think that, and that's why I moved my Silver Beach meetings to 8:30 in the morning. We do the annual meeting, do it early. People come and they come in droves. You put out a little coffee and cake, and they come and they know they're done by 10:30 or 11, and then can go to the beach and enjoy the rest of the day. So,
well, I guess I would just say, if you guys have feedback like that, we literally have 2 weeks to make this happen.
I would just,
And it has been an email, so please feel free to hit me up if you have other ideas.
That, Jim, maybe July is July. That we just go with July, see how it goes on a whole bunch of different things that you've raised and that we haven't even thought about. And then we have time to tweak all
It's
this.
a dry run.
yeah, yes.
Yeah, so we know that we're probably going to learn stuff at the July things and refine
Sure.
to August, but we have it the truth of this is we have, if we're working backwards to have a plan in September, I have to start somewhere,
Right.
right? And I have to start now.
Yeah. Want to make it as effective as possible.
And so we're trying to make it as effective as possible.
Yeah.
And if you guys have feedback, oh my gosh, totally want it, but I need it right now.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I have some feedback right now. I'm thinking that you don't let them do potluck and come in and pick and choose. I think you have them go through station 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, because they may be asking questions of 5 that they could have gotten at 1, 2, 3, or 4. And I think for educational purposes, I think it's great that they have to go through the stations to get to 5.
Maybe we do something where there's reservations, where there's 15 people can come at 3, and then another 15 people can come at 3:15 or something like that. These are some of the ideas that we've kind of tossed around, and you could have someone that goes through it with them.
Yeah. Based on the size of the room, if you physically go into the room and you set this up and imagine what's happening, I do agree with Stephen on this. I think, it provides, it's a welcome, and then it's a logical sequence to getting through to the actual, the fifth stage of that. And so I think that's a good thing, and it prevents people, I was here before, and now I want to get to station 5. Somebody comes from the outside, right? At 5. We avoid that. and you pick up meaningful information, from the first 4 steps. The thing about videotaping it and putting it, and airing this again, just hard with 5 different stations to.
So it's not gonna be videotape, it's
Okay.
gonna be a slideshow.
Obviously.
So basically, all the information that's on those
Okay.
poster
Yep.
boards, the imaginary poster boards
Yep.
behind me,
Yeah.
will be made into a slideshow. So
Okay.
there won't be as much of an opportunity to ask questions, but we'll probably like throw up an email where you could just be like, hey, I don't understand XYZ.
That's great.
And then we could do that, but again, really trying to mirror the presentation digitally so that you're experiencing the same thing that if you were able to go there in person, because like it's the summer. I mean, I really think that no matter what time we pick, it's going to be a challenge for some people.
Yeah.
So wanting to make, if you're wanting to make the experience, if you're not able to attend in person, as robust and as similar to that open house as we possibly can.
No, and another thing I'm thinking, instead of having reservations, maybe, how if you go visit a museum,
Mhm.
there's someone who takes you room to room and explains. So if you have people like that, first 15 people in line, they get taken, station to station with
Yeah.
someone who's guiding the conversation, helping out, answering questions, fostering communication and going, I think that might be.
Yeah, I think that there's some
Yeah, and I don't think you're gonna draw a zillion people because it's summertime. I'll tell you by mid-Saturday afternoon, it's not gonna be, I think the groups have to be a little smaller than that. Workable groups of, anywhere from 3 to 7 or 8 people, in a group. Because that's a large group, everybody has a question and, for me to address that one question of everybody's, takes some time to be able to do that. So you want a smooth transition of going through. I wouldn't make the groups super large.
Well, we'll have to, really, one of the things that we're going to be challenged with is it's going to be staffed totally from volunteer boards. So they also have to come on their Saturdays. So that is going to be one of our limiting factors is just volunteers.
So with that in mind, I'm
Mhm.
going to ask you something that I'm surprised the coach and teaching. Are you going to practice? Are the people
Yeah.
making the presentations going to
Well, so again, we're not making the presentations. We're just going to be there
answer questions?
to answer
Are you gonna-
questions.
Facilitators, as
They're
they
going to be
I understand
facilitators. So how we are imagining this going is that we will have certain people working certain stations so that every member of Chabad doesn't have to be up to date on every single thing. Like one person might be an expert on the uses of the fund, and then another person just has to be able to answer every flippin' question about Station 4.
Right.
Because it's too much information for anyone. So just coaching people to their particular
Mhm.
station of what they're going to be working on is how we're kind of imagining it.
Yeah. The other thing is about having all 5 stations in the same room. The library, I know you could break it out a little bit. Presbyterian Church, I'm not quite sure whether it would all be in one room and split up amongst the room. The conversation is going to be overheard with supervisor here with his, relationship with Brian Dolja, that the school building, again, it's summertime and I know they're doing summer work, but there's a possibility that, a wing of where they've already cleaned the class or they haven't cleaned the classrooms. You open up a wing, you have 5 separate classrooms.
So I think here's the thing is that we are to the point where we have to put ads in the paper.
Yeah.
So if we need to make a change, we need to make that decision
Well, what
this
about
week.
the tent outside of the library, given, not a monsoon? Just like, no?
I mean, we can't, again, it doesn't, I'm
You just need to
open
know.
to that, but I have to publicize. I can't,
Right.
you know what I mean? I think, so absolutely open to that feedback,
Well, this goes hand in. I think the school would cooperate because obviously, part of the housing is to draw younger people to get younger families to move here. So I would think that it's, we're all on the same wavelength
yeah,
here.
no, I think Dr.
So we need to have it for next week's newspaper.
Yeah, it's
So we need
cooler.
it by Monday.
So, really, if we have feedback, I'm available.
Fan setup, you have water stations.
Um,
There's a lot you can do in a building, a school building.
Yeah.
You can't do, in these one room.
So if you totally open to it, I do have a full-time job, but happy to work around it.
No, we just,
But I guess I would just say that there is, all of this should be in your email. Get back to me, I'm available, call me, email me, give me the feedback, but I gotta have it ASAP.
yes.
But I'm happy to listen to all of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
Anything else?
Anything else we good?
Liz, while we have you, we took it off the agenda, but I'm asking if you want to talk about it, because Amber's wasn't able to make it today. The landed present.
We are actually going to have the folks from Landed presenting, and I have invited, I can just give you like an overview of what that is. So it's going to be at the next meeting. I met some folks from an amazing organization called Landed at a housing conference that I was at. And they provide down payment assistance for essential government workers. And so what they do is a shared equity model. So they can provide up to $150,000 in down payment support for government workers. Hoping basically the idea is by getting folks up to a 20% down payment, they avoid mortgage insurance and hopefully make those monthly payments doable. And so again, it has to be for government workers. They're like kind of certain criteria. And then how it works, of course, I was like, well, how does it work financially? Why are you giving them $150,000? So they get a share of the house, right? So they get made whole when you sell, they get their portion back. The house loses value, their investment loses value. But if it makes money, they make a little money too. So I have approached Terry at the library, the town, town employees. I know have a few. The school is very interested, and the chief of police. And so they will all be attending the meeting. I've sent them preliminary information to see if they have staff that are interested. We do have staff at many of those locations that are interested in utilizing the program. And so we're going to be having someone from Landed here to explain the ins and the outs of the program. My hope is that it might be useful for some of our employees. Again, I know that it is not going to solve all things, but my hope is that if we have, I think about like, Swiss cheese, like there's holes in everything, but if you just stack enough together, you can start to solve something. So anyway, yeah.
Is that Thursday?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but
July
19th. Yeah. So, and I do hope that we are able to keep that time because I have invited Terry, Chief of Police, and Dr. Dolger. So they've definitely moved their schedules to be able to come and
Yes.
to that presentation.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much. Liz, always a pleasure.
Okay, we're gonna change the order of the agenda a little bit. I have Kat Brigham here and the chief's online. We're gonna go over the outdoor assembly permit for the fireworks.
Hi,
Hey, Ken, how are you?
I'm good. This is my first time.
Kat's taking over for
Feels like I should-
yeah.
Let's see.
No. Never feel that way.
I know.
Yeah, go ahead.
Great. So this year I'm here to talk about the Shelter Island.
Wait, guys, if you can, just got to take that conversation outside because you can't hear it. Thank you.
Hello. I'm here to talk about the Shelter Island fireworks, which are back after a 2-year hiatus. So I'll give you a quick rundown. Yesterday, we had a meeting with the police, fire department, EMS, the town, fire marshal, and our fireworks board, kind of our logistics to go over everything. Here, the hour by hour plan or, the days leading up to and what would happen on that day. So I'll run you through that now. Friday, the day before the fireworks, the portable bathrooms will be delivered to be set up on Saturday morning. Friday evening, we have our pre-event fundraiser at the Shipwreck. We have done that for a number of years now. We have live music, raffles. It's a great community event. We have a really nice showing of people, both summer residents, full-time residents. And then Saturday, starting at 7 a.m., I will be out putting signage out. The police will be, the highway department will be putting bathrooms in the same place as they have traditionally been. The fireworks are loaded onto the barge which will be docked at the yacht club. We're using Grucci again. If you're familiar, Scott Cooper is who we worked with in the past. He's still who we work with, very knowledgeable, knows all of our key players. So he's, him and Chief Reed know each other. He's also used to working with the yacht club. So there's open communication there. This year for a barge, we will be using Ian Crowley, which is a little bit different. He is local though, so he's familiar with the depth challenges that we've had in the past. He's also been in touch with Bo Payne to kind of preeminently go over any issues that may or may not arise. So the fireworks are loaded, they're taken out and put in position. Fireworks headquarters is established near the Prydwen. So basically that's the command station for police, EMS, things like that, anything that might be needed during the day. Shelter Island Fireworks headquarters will be centered on Crescent Beach. It's going to be, we have a nice big blue tent this year. So we have fundraising activities, we have information, we have, we have a whole bunch of updated signage so people can really clearly see where we are, what time does the show go off, when, things like that. Additionally, we will have the family area again this year, which will be closer to the comfort stations. As you come down the hill, we have new signage for that as well. For people who would like to be, close to the bathrooms. It's also by the accessible ramp. Around 7:15, our board is going to be walking up and down the beach. And we spoke with the highway department, who's going to do a few trash empties during the day so that we don't have the overflowing. But the 7:15 by our board is kind of just, hey, how's it going? Checking on everything, making sure people are cleaning up.
Are you going to be carrying bags?
Hopefully not. Hopefully the bags will all be in place. But we've done it in years past. It serves as like a friendly reminder. It's a great way to see people, but also to say, before the sun goes down, we want everything cleaned up off the beach. It just makes it easier the next day. At between 9:15, 9:30-ish, the fireworks show will begin. It's 16 to 18 minutes. I think it's 17 on the nose this year, actually. Post-show, the fireworks board members walk the beach, making sure we're encouraging cleanliness. We also have an agreement to walk where the parking is at Goat Hill to just make sure that there's nothing left so that my husband included 6 a.m. golfers on Sunday don't have to run into any surprises. So that will be board members as well as some volunteers. The rain date is Sunday the 10th. So obviously some things would change if that were to happen. It's not going to though, so that's great. Additionally, I have a list of all of the contacts, which I will share with Police Chief Reed, and he will disseminate to whoever needs it. We have submitted our permit, and then we have, in addition to that, was a noise exemption for Friday, the shipwreck event. And I believe that is it. What questions can I answer for you?
Christina, can you put back up the,
It was Chief.
that was Chief, can you put that back up, please?
No problem.
Hi, Chief.
When does the get situated? When do you put it in place?
Shortly after it's loaded up.
Frozen again.
So Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, probably even a little bit earlier than that. The reason being because we need 800 feet around the barge. We want to get it there as soon as possible so that we don't have to move boats that are already anchored.
Right.
So that's kind of a coordinated effort.
And who does that, Chief? The Bay Constables?
Yeah, so we have shared resources on that. So it's not just our Bay Constables. The fire department has their fireboat. We get help from Southampton, the Coast Guard, and Southold with that. But we will secure a perimeter around that barge as per fireworks regulations for safety perimeters.
Okay.
That's an 800 feet radius?
800 feet radius.
Radius.
It has to do with the size of the shell that we launch off.
Yes.
Mhm. Any questions?
Close to the beach.
Is it what?
The edge looks so close to the beach.
It does, but you have to remember that they're coming off from the star.
Yeah.
And they'll feel immersed.
That's what I want. I want that.
Almost a pretty good fire, that's fact.
Shush.
Any
So
questions?
the pre-pour is at Shipwreck,
Pre-parties at Shipwreck?
and that's the day before?
That is the day before. Yeah, we do that. We call it Fireworks Eve,
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
Okay, and
Did we get the application for the,
Shipwreck, we got the noise, we
The noise
did. I
exemption.
think you,
Yes, I spoke,
okay,
I was told how to put it on to
Okay.
the
so you
application.
put it into the outdoor assembly application? That
yes. I think it's
I-
probably,
Exemption.
it might be part of this one.
Oh, yeah, I see a sticky. Could we have an exemption of the noise?
That was what that was how I was told to hire. So,
No, that makes sense. That's fine. And
So yes,
you're a 501c3, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay. And the Shipwreck thing, are you raising money?
We are. We raise
For
a
your,
for the fireworks show.
okay,
And
great.
if you're wondering, but don't you have to pay for it the next day? Yes, we do. And so a lot of what we try and do is we're always trying to raise a little bit of money for not just this year's show, but so that next year we're not starting from zero,
Yeah.
because we do have to put deposits down in like January. And obviously we're not able to fundraise then for the show.
Yeah, so they meet all the requirements for the show.
Chief, anything you want to add?
No, just Kat, I don't know if you went over, on the beach itself. So from the police perspective, we have a 3-part event. We have a marine event where the barge is. We have a traffic event where people are coming and going from it. And we also add an enforcement event. We want to make sure that the families that go down there have space to enjoy themselves, enjoy the fireworks, and have a peaceful show. So, Kat, did you talk about the family area? We're going to try to designate a little bit of a family area.
I was saying we got new signage this year. It'll be near the comfort station as you're coming down the hill, and that will be clearly marked.
Right. So I just wanted to kind of make sure that kind of hits home, but know that there'll be plainclothes police officers down there. The police department also gets help from the state police and the sheriffs, Suffolk County sheriffs for that day. On top of the additional resources that we use on the water for that day. The police, fire, and EMS, our emergency management team, all have reviewed the application and are in agreement with accepting that application as presented. All have plans to sit at the command post and be prepared to handle whatever's presented on that day. So we're in good shape there. The other big part in this, and I don't know if Brian's in the audience, is our highway department that does a tremendous job helping set up for this. We asked Goat Hill, and the fire group is going to talk to Goat Hill to see if we can park in their parking lot. We usually put about 300 to 400 cars in that parking lot on the day of events, so they will definitely do that. I would remind those people that live in Silver Beach to park on that side of the display from 9:30 to roughly 10:30. There'll be definitely traffic delays in getting around in that West Neck, Silver Beach, Crescent Beach area. So we would just remind people of that. And besides that, I think we're in pretty good shape. It's back the way it was back in 2019.
Chief, the only difference is the New York State marijuana law. And I think we put in place that there's no smoking period on the public part of the beach, right?
I believe so. I'd have to go back and look in town code on that. I'm not sure if that was codified by resolution, but we'll backtrack on that. It's a good point, Supervisor.
That was definite. I do remember.
And again, that was because of, it's legal, you're allowed to do it, but we wanted to make sure people with families, weren't,
Jim, is that a citation then?
well, I think we'll start with a warning,
No,
put it out.
I don't know.
It's like a ticket.
Yeah, it would be a town code violation.
Anybody else have anything?
I just want to clarify, Corey Grucci is the person that's going to be on site, and he's the contact person in case of emergency.
He is the logistics contact person, but Scott Cooper will also be on site.
Okay, and we do have his
Yes.
cell number as well?
Mhm.
Okay.
And Brian and I discussed this morning, we'll empty the bathroom Friday and then again Sunday morning and hopefully
It makes it.
avoid the Mason. All day Saturday, because there are thousands.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Supervisor Reed Karen's our fire marshal. I just didn't know if he had any other comment on this.
Oh, he's not here.
No, I'm here. Not really. I mean, the big issues are storage, which we talked about yesterday. And just that they have to be insured and get a, get a permit for the event.
Okay.
Did you say porta potties too, or no?
Yes.
Yes.
They get delivered to the town.
the yacht club's involvement?
That's where we load the
Barge.
the fireworks. So the barge comes up. Wade is our point of contact there. It's fun. If you're up at 7 a.m, I'll meet you there. Have a coffee and watch it load the shells. Pretty neat. I do want to say on behalf of the fireworks board, we are so grateful to be up and running. This is a community event. It is so fantastic to have not only seen it as a kid, but to be back with my friends and their kids, and to, host a great, clean event that we hope to do for years to come.
Yeah, thank you.
And from our end, we want to thank you because you're all volunteers. And this is a tremendous effort, not just this next 2 weeks, all year.
Yeah.
So thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Okay. Okay, next on the list, we have yesterday, the Water Advisory Council Committee met, and we talked about our draft regulations for our drought. And Joe, you want to,
Want Brian's agenda items first? Yeah.
oh, sure. Yeah, we're changing the agenda timeframe. We can do that.
He's getting too comfortable.
Okay, we asked Brian to come to talk about two things. One is, and I don't know if any of the judges are here.
No, I told him like.
Okay, we're gonna talk about a security scanner for Justice Hall and also the replacement of our town flagpole. So, Brian?
So first of all, the flagpole. As you can see, we had to take it down this morning. It was in deterioration, rotted. When we took it down, it was rotted all the way through at the base. So it was in conjunction with the town engineer and the chief, myself, for safety reasons, we took it down because the top was rotted, the bottom was rotted, the arms were rotted. We saved the base, according to Dottie. It was donated to the town in 1949 by Mr. Steller from Ram Island and Dr. Price and his wife. She can't remember, and she's still looking. They say it's a historic. It came off a historic ship.
Oh, wow.
We're not sure which one. So we saved the pole, the mast, whatever you want to call it. For the future, if the Historical Society wants to look into it, possibly display it or whatever, but we have it, we didn't cut it up, we have the main pole. So going forward, I talked to Andy Langenville, because he's the one that replaced the top 30 years ago, which needed to be replaced again. And talking with him, because he's a woodworker, he said you're better off just replacing the whole thing at this point because you're going to spend too much time and money trying to restore it and repair it.
And half of it will be not new.
So we've looked into new poles. I have two prices. I'm waiting for a third. Everybody is around the same price for a 60-foot aluminum commercial flagpole with a yard arm, just like the one we had. Then they run around $15,000. So these are wind rated for 120 flagged, 170, 180 unflagged. So I don't think we're going to have a problem.
Right.
If we do, then we're in trouble.
Yeah. We got more worried about than a flagpole. Yeah.
So with using different monies in different town accounts, we're going to get the best price with the best availability, and we're going to put it right back up as soon as we can.
Right. And so you'll check with the Historical Society if they have interest in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a flagpole.
Just out of curiosity, didn't ask you this yesterday. How did it come to your attention? Did somebody was this?
Jimmy Lenzer actually brought to my attention a couple of weeks ago, and then I think somebody brought to Joe's attention. So we went and looked at it, and sure enough, it was in really bad shape.
So I mean, thank God, because after you described the shape that it was in and the liability that was involved there and the danger to the public, thank God that somebody saw that.
So the pole was actually, it was 65 feet, and the middle is actually hollow. So if you take away what was rotted in the hollow part as you go up, there's not a lot left where the top of the break. So anyway, we're going to replace it with a nice aluminum flagpole because it is a staple in the town.
Yeah, it is.
It really is. We might move it a little bit better position, not exactly where the other one is. We have to put in a new foundation for it because it is in concrete.
Yeah.
But we'll figure that out and we'll get it back up as soon as we can.
All right.
And just so the town board knows, once Joe and Brian realized the extent of the damage, they insisted it comes down right away. So there was that's why we didn't tell everybody it's coming down. It had to come as an emergency.
Right, yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's like a bad tree. It's gotta come down, it's gotta come down.
Yeah.
So the second thing I have is, if you can remember back in 2021, we went for a grant for the courthouse security,
Yes.
but we were denied the grant. But we're still looking for the security. And what we did, and I think nobody has it, but there's a Garrett makes a
Yeah,
security.
Christina, can you, she has it, yeah.
Right there. This is a common thing you see in all courthouses across the country. So our grant was a little bit more involved than just this. It was concrete pad, outdoor storage, whatnot. So what we're going to do is we want to purchase this. We're going to put it on the overhang underneath the porch, and that's where we're going to store it as well, because it comes with outdoor storage, or weatherproof storage cover. And in the wintertime, we will put plastics on the side of that. That's
It's gonna work with the doors.
Yeah.
The doors open in?
Doors open in.
Okay.
Or, no, they don't. They open in. They open in.
So what do we do?
It's going to be to one side. In the middle of the staircase, we're going to put a railing right down the middle.
Right.
The security checkpoint is going to be on the right side, or the left side will be the exit egress.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. And we went over, had a meeting with the judges. We looked at the area, and we think that we should have plenty of room to do that there. The only reason that the court system would not give the grant is because they said it was portable, and they want something permanent. So when we do something permanent, we can probably get our money back.
Okay.
So this is an important feature for them. They've been looking for it for years, and I think they found the money.
Right.
And so we just want to go ahead
And again, we have the court officer, but it's kind of hard to,
right.
can't frisk everybody when they walk in.
No, but it's probably
Right.
it's probably one of the only justice courts on the East End that does not have.
Right.
It is the only one.
Yeah, Southold recently got it like 5 years ago. But other than that, everyone else has, and they also have the conveyor belt.
For the X-ray.
Yeah.
Oh.
So this package is not very expensive. It's only $5,400 for a full walkthrough scanner. Comes with a handheld scanner, signs, buckets, and other things. It's a complete package for a security system.
Right. And Nancy Catula looked at the justice budget, and they have $2,500 we could use.
That's happy right there.
Balance, right.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of companies like this out here, so it's kind of hard to get a three prices on something like this. Because Garrett is pretty much the premium protection out there.
Yeah, and at 5,100, you don't have to.
Right.
As long as you're comfortable, it can stay outside.
Yeah, they assured me they come with all weather covers.
Right.
At different events, you see them outside events, they're out there all the time.
Okay.
So it does.
Okay.
So are they transferable, Ryan, or do you just cover them in place?
You can cover them in place, and we also have it where it would be on wheels.
Okay.
So you can move it around if you need it.
Okay. Good. Any questions? All right. Brian, thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, now we'll go to drought restrictions. I had asked Joe or Jim Colligan quite a while ago. I asked that we review our drought regulations and, make sure we have everything in order, just in case, God forbid, we need to put them in place. Joe, you want to walk us through it?
Sure. Yeah. Christina, could you please put up the procedures, this smaller one-page file? So for some of you, this is not the first time that you'll be seeing this idea for a policy predates my position here and some of even the town board members. But I think back in 2018, there was a push to establish clear rules and policy for establishing a local drought criteria and also what the corresponding restrictions would be. And so we touched base on this almost exactly 1 year ago. It was not formally adopted by the town board for reasons that we hadn't quite worked out the back end of the policy. So how enforcement, public communication would work. And so I'm here today to walk through what the WAC Water Advisory Committee, in conjunction with my office, has put together for a combination of restrictions and criteria, how we do the actual evaluation, and then to talk more, present this to the town board as how they would like to handle the enforcement and back end of the policy. So what you see presented here on the screen is just the full procedure of the policy. So we're answering questions, who does the evaluation? That's going to happen by the WAC with an option for an emergency authority to the town engineer. The WAC meets monthly. We're about to transition to real-time monitoring of our test wells on the island. So previously, a monthly evaluation by the WAC was commensurate with the schedule of the well monitoring. Now that we have real-time monitoring, we wanted to add the option for a more rapid recommendation. But in any case, who does the evaluation? The answer is WAC as well as town engineer, but WAC takes precedence when we have the option to do so. Second question there, I answered already. When does the evaluation occur? Monthly by the WAC with the option to respond more quickly if we need to. How is the evaluation conducted? We use a combination of 4 different measurement tools to understand both the regional and hyper-local drought conditions. We look at the U.S. seasonal drought outlook, which is more regional and rain-based. We look at another state-issued drought severity monitor. We look at the Big 4 wells. So of all of the on-island USGS monitored wells, many of them are ruled out because they are located on the periphery of the island. They're influenced by tidal variability, but there are 4 concentrated in the center of the island. They've been nicknamed the Big 4. Those are the primary local aquifer monitoring wells that we use to understand drought conditions on island, or really, I should say, aquifer levels on island.
And just so everybody knows, it's well at Manhasset, Van Waring Road, Congdon Road, and Goat Hill.
That's right. Yep. And then the 4th criteria is New York State issued or Suffolk County drought criteria. So what happens is the WAC already reviews our status with these 4 criteria on a monthly basis. And as part of that status, we would slot those findings into a particular drought rating. We'll get into what those are called in a moment. And then those ratings on severity correspond with restrictions based on, how strict they need to be.
Before you go further,
Yep.
you have the criteria. How is it evaluated? 1 and 2 is U.S. seasonal drought outlook and drought severity monitor. That's how regional is that?
I forget what the exact boundaries are, but it's broader. If you're looking at the map that's in our territory, it's like the full Northeast region.
So those are the 2 things that would target us being aware of that.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll see that in the criteria, that's the next document we're going to look at. The detailed criteria gives us the flexibility to look at all of these, but still make a decision that's most relevant to our island conditions. And ultimately that goes down to our well readings. So, we look for additional guidance from these other regional and, county state assessments, but ultimately for us, it really boils down to the well readings because, our aquifer is the supply. And so if we are in a situation where demand is unusually high, then the aquifer readings would be low. And so we may not actually be qualified as a drought by the state or the county, but locally we have a drought condition. So we can work within those guidelines to, as a WAC committee to, make the best recommendation for us. So procedurally, the issue that we need to get to really starts here at D, E, F, and G. And that's ultimately what the town board needs to advise on next steps here. The WAC is going to make these assessments and ultimately is going to deliver via written communication to the town board what the new drought status is. And then we need to know how public communication will happen, how enforcement will happen, well, that's pretty much it, actually. Beyond that, we'll bounce. It will sort of return to the WAC in terms of continual monitoring and when we relieve or relax. Yeah, exactly. Relax those conditions.
And in terms of public communication at the meeting yesterday, it was brought up, and I think this is a great idea to monthly, if not more often, post the 4 big wells on a chart relative to the median level, post that chart monthly on the front page of the town website. And so people can look at it themselves and see that we're like right now, we're entering, we are in guarded territory.
Right.
I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah.
And we really should, in terms of public communication, that should be among the first things that we do. Do it even now, or as soon as the real time
Don't wait for the-
monitoring comes on.
Yeah, communication, if I had to point to one of the most important, it's that section D, because when we flip pages and look at the actual criteria about what gets restricted, the communication goes hand in hand with actually executing that. For instance, some of the restrictions are on new plantings and sod and mostly pertaining to pools and irrigation. And if nobody knows that that's a restriction, we can't really do a whole lot. And some of them are also planning items that may be handled not even so much by the homeowner, but by off island contractors. Sod is ordered in advance, pool work, that's all scheduled. So giving some lead time and thought to the communication method, I think, is probably the most important here. How will we broadcast that? And do we have any channels through either the building department or the clerk's office to contact people already on registers that are going to be most impacted, like, construction crews or landscapers and things. And that's outside the realm of what the WAC is working on.
Seeding and sodding during July, August.
It's a fool's errand.
Can almost, the amount of water necessary to keep sod alive or to germinate seed and then the heat of the summer is astronomical.
Mhm.
I mean, the seed has to stay damp and it's just not a good time. So, builders and everybody else, when you're planning, when you're trying to wrap up the house, that's something like if you think you're going to, finish construction in mid-July or early August, you wait till September and October and you have to plan ahead that it'll be another month before you put in, vegetation and things like that when the nights cool down and the temperatures cool down a little bit. And maybe we come out of a drought emergency of some sorts.
Christina, could we switch to that other document? So we'll take a look back at the criteria. These are unchanged since we last presented to the board. So here you have the advisory level. So when the WAC reviews all of the data, they're going to land on one of the 4 listed here, either guarded, warning, emergency, or disaster. And as BJ mentioned yesterday, the standard is guarded. So we're at the base level with voluntary water restrictions always, and then we would move up to the different levels based on our assessment. If we scroll down a little bit, you'll see the drought indication criteria. This is just a little bit more of a description of our evaluation criteria that were listed in the procedure. So the U.S. Seasonal Drought Outlook, you can find some more context about how that works. Criteria 2, the Drought Severity Monitor Report, the Shelter Island well height levels, and then number 4, which is the state or other county, drought proclamations that would impose, certain restrictions as well.
We can invoke our own before the state of council.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's really highlighting the importance of criteria 3, which is looking at the well data.
Yes.
Which is, what I would say to be the most relevant. And here you see the actual numbers as to when we would qualify that to be excessively low. So we're looking at, just scroll up a little bit, please, Christina. So these numbers here relative to the average, the median well heights are going to trigger those guarded warning emergency levels if we're in excess of, 13% or of the average, or 20% of the average. That's a numerical trigger for us. If we scroll down to the next page, Christina. Yep. Next one again. These are really this is really the meat of what we're talking about here. What gets restricted and when, and certainly this was hashed out extensively when it was first delivered. But like I said, this was presented a year ago and it's been unchanged since then. So I suppose that this is something that could be open for further discussion, but for the sake of expediting this, WAC has already sort of blessed this document. Myself, I feel this is significant enough to move forward with. And if we did want to make changes to this, it shouldn't bar us from adopting the policy. This is a living document. We can make changes as we see fit, after it's been put in place. So, just running down the list here quickly, the major categories are what happens with lawn irrigation, garden and landscape areas, pools and hot tubs, and then other water reduction and restriction categories. And largely we just bounce back and forth from voluntary versus mandatory restrictions based off of what level of drought you're at. And, those are the major categories of water use that we have historically felt are worth pursuing from an enforcement standpoint, and that also have the biggest impact on water usage.
Yeah, my comment, Joe, is that I'm embarrassed as a town board member because I was here in 2018 and 2 years before that. This was a good document at the time, and it's a good document still. The fact that we are waiting 4 years to adopt this, and if anybody really spends the time to look at it, we'll have it online available to you. It's a logical sequence, and it shows you from stage 1 through stage 4. And a lot of the stuff in stage 1 is voluntary, and a lot of stuff in stage 2 is voluntary with certain mandatory restrictions. And obviously, as the drought conditions get more severe, then obviously the mandatory procedures do start to come into play more frequently. But for an island that everybody values the water restrictions, conserving water should always be our top goal. So that should be something that we don't even talk about. We should emphasize all the time outside of a drought condition. Now, just conserving water is just a good thing to do on this island, because we know, and we have seen it in the past, where we have definitely gotten to those wells at positions where we should be in some type of a drought emergency, and we weren't. We had no steps to take. So, I hope the public appreciates the work that went into this by the WAC. They've made some good recommendations since 2018. The piece about enforcement is the one thing last year that prevented us from, adopting this. But again, if anybody thinks that it's all about enforcement, it's all about responsible citizenship. Really, how many people are you going to have traveling around this island seeing who's watering their lawn at 2:00 in the afternoon or topping off their pool in a drought emergency? You have to have your head in the sand. It's up to all of us to take this to heart. And if we don't want to get into a dangerous situation, adhere to this, embrace this. This is something that's good for the island. And I love your idea about posting that so people can go right online and see when we might be starting to slip. Those 4 major wells are starting to drop, and we need to take that into consideration. So, every little step you can take, particularly with rentals, family members coming in, educating them about length of showers and brushing your teeth and washing your face, and anything you can do to cut down on the amount of water that you're using during the course of the day should be strongly recommended. We're all in this thing together. This is not something that should be coming out jammed down your throat from it by government. This should be something that's embraced by community that says, we need to embrace this big time, for our future.
And here in the code, it's not very hard to do this.
Right.
Now,
8212.
Mhm.
We can pretty much just adopt this as a
So what would be the
resolution.
process to put this drought restriction plan into the code?
Just a resolution adopting it. And it has the same force as a local law,
Right.
and it can be enforced pursuant to this code. The building inspector and the police department are the enforcement officers for it. And I believe it's up to $1,000 fine, up to 5 days in jail. And each day is a separate and distinct offense.
Wow. So it's got some teeth.
It
Not that we want that.
No.
I mean,
It has some teeth, but the emphasis is on cooperation, public cooperation, and being good as citizens. And educating your neighbor. And by the way, if your neighbor,
Communication.
communication is the most important thing.
Yeah, and the timing's impeccable. Our last drought was in 2017, so it's no coincidence that I believe this was first presented in 2018.
Correct.
And to say that you missed out, no sweat, we haven't been in a drought since then, but we are on the verge of potentially increasing our drought status. Right now, we're running quite below the average on our big four. We've agreed to wait one more month before taking this a step further. But if the trend continues, we could very well see an increase in the drought status within the next month, which would, put this policy more or less right into effect.
not to make everybody sad, but the prediction is that we won't have to do it, but.
Well, yesterday was a good help.
Yeah.
It really did.
And that's the one thing about Shelter Island, it recharges almost everything.
Yeah.
The sandy soils we have.
Yeah, so we're closer than we've been for the past few years into entering drought territory, but so it's a possibility that this becomes relevant, within the next 30 to 60 days.
Well, we want to thank you, Joe, and definitely the WAC for their sticking with this and endorsing this for the town board.
So not
One of the thing
not
we-
this Friday, probably the following town board meeting.
Yeah, and I don't know if, does the resolution have to include, or should the policy include, what you want to do in terms of communication? Is there a way that we
Say again.
get, how will we handle the communication aspect of
I
this?
don't think that has to be in the resolution, but we have to come up with it. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the last thing before Joe leaves is,
Maybe Christina can.
Joe and I asked the WAC to look at the irrigation law and give us the science behind it. The part where we're talking about is that the grandfathered irrigation systems was supposed to be grandfathered until 2013. And that's when the sunset was. And for whatever reason, the town board chose to just extend it. So we have, I think, 124 grandfathered systems and 60 maybe with, after that put cisterns in. So I think we want to know what, don't do it just for the sake of doing it. Ask the WAC to tell us, do we need to eliminate these irrigation systems.
And as we know with cisterns, there can be some cheating going on with cisterns. So that's, just because you have a cistern doesn't mean you're necessarily getting this water from off island to fill the cistern. A lot of people fill it right from the tap. The other thing about it is that the realization is, and Joe and I have talked about this all the time, is a north and south fork, it's just a matter of time before they put their foot down and say, by the way, to have these water tankers come up, several times a day to a hydrant, take our water to Shelter Island, that's your problem. They're not gonna, this gift is not gonna be there forever. And you have to just predict that one of these days, one of the two forks or both of them are gonna turn around and say, hey, those days are over.
Well, especially since we went through agreement with Suffolk County Water Authority that we can't fill tankers on the island. It's kind of hypocritical that we're going off the island.
Yeah.
And bring it here. On it.
But we won't even have the option, is just that's what I'm saying, is that,
Right,
that locally, those four East End towns.
right. On a different note, it came up, I think, I don't know, BJ, if you brought it up or Joe, somebody, you brought it up. The way that we read the legislation for the cisterns now is they have to be filled from off island. So the question is, why couldn't they be filled from the rooftops and from, drainage on property? And, I think the initial intent was because then it's not being recharged. But I don't know, again, if you go to the science, I don't know that that's a valid reason not to
You're
fill it.
filling a pool, right? It's going to evaporate. If you collected rainwater and use it to fill a pool, you'll lose you lose it to evaporation. And I think that was kind of
Well, I think they were saying it wouldn't recharge the aquifer.
right. That's what I mean.
You know.
You lose it,
Yeah,
Joe and I were having this conversation where we're entering into a time where these discussions become more and more difficult. Now, for that person to have to
Right.
put a 9-foot pool in on Conic Avenue on the water, 9-foot depth, go down 11 feet and pump out all that fresh water. For what? Why do you need a 9-foot pool, for God's sakes?
Yeah.
Why do you need an 8-foot pool? Why do you need a 6-foot pool? I mean, it's a question of we have to take a look at that. Instead of making it oval and fancy, it's got to be rectangular, because rectangular is more conducive to pool covers. It rolls out and rolls back. And that pool cover goes a long way to stop the evaporation. So it also helps, keep the pool at a moderate temperature so you can use it for a longer period of time. But there's a lot of advantages to it. But these are the kind of things that we have to start looking into as a group and saying, rather than just encourage it, we may have to, the water issue is not going to go away.
right.
And it's going to be a constant.
Well, that would be a good question, Jim and Joe. When we talk about like sort of miles per gallon,
Right.
people get all excited about it in a car about miles per gallon. But when you look about the overall energy consumption, it's really not that significant an impact. It's buildings and it's trucking and it's, other uses of fossil fuels that are really the big impact. So the question for water would be the same. How much impact does the pool have? Do pools have overall on water uses versus restaurants versus other household uses? I don't know the answer to that. Is there a chart that you can develop for that, or some way to give us an understanding of where we're using water?
Yeah, certainly. Jim and I spoke this morning about how, just a decade ago, pools weren't so prevalent on the island.
Right.
It wasn't something that was really considered. What happens now as demand increases, but pools are becoming, a new stress that was sort of unforeseen on our water usage. It's a lot of water. It requires a lot of chemicals, a lot of electricity to manage. And, and then even when that water goes back in the ground, it's not necessarily good for the aquifer to have chlorinated or salt water go back in. So, there's a lot of vulnerabilities there. And I think part of the WAC's charge on reviewing irrigation policy is to examine sort of that full spectrum. Does it make sense to allow cisterns to be filled with rainwater? It certainly doesn't make sense in comparison from outsourcing our problem to our neighboring communities. Like Jim said, there's a lot of traction in those communities who aren't happy with tanker trucks in their street filling up at a hydrant, at no benefit to them, but alleviating a problem here. So it's important that we're looking at sustainable changes, and that I think is part of it. So busy agenda for the WAC, but
Yeah.
those are the types of things that we should be leaning on them for some guidance.
I told Joe the story. There's a neighbor in Seward Beach that always used to run a hose out to the bay, and he filled it up with bay water. Emptied it and filled it right up. And that was great because he used no water. However, when it came time to the end of the season to pump it out, as Joe said, I don't know, unless he's going to pump it back into the bay, and we probably just pumped it back into the ground. What impact did that have on the lens on Silver Beach? So, it takes people in the know to be able to strategize and come up with good suggestions. Again, I don't think we're trying to overwhelm, that we're going to do all of this at once. Hey, it took over 4 years to get a drought, restriction thing in place. Not that it's in place yet, because we have to vote on it. But it took that long. And there were a lot of little kinks that we wanted. Plus the fact that sometimes things get put on the back burner. But to put this thing, as important as it was, 4 years on the burner, and then.
Well, that's what actually, good point, Jim. No, really, I hope this encourages the WAC to continue their work and bring it to this board.
Right.
That's
a great point, because what happened there was they spent an enormous amount of time developing this document. And then for us to have not moved on it, had to send the wrong message saying, now they want us to look at this. They didn't implement the last thing that we spent countless hours on. So, good point. The morale of the volunteers serving on these committees is important. Yes.
I think the other thing BJ and I tried to emphasize at the meeting yesterday was that, I kept bringing up housing, but, we keep hearing reasons that we have to be careful with zoning and density because of the aquifer. So if that's the case, let's look at every possible thing that can affect the aquifer, not just housing.
Sure.
Okay, anything else, Joe?
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
See you next week.
Okay, next on the agenda, I asked the building department. I have Reed Karen and Michael DeSantis here. Guys, you can come up and sit up here if you want. And two things. We're going to talk about the house on 73 North Cartwright. It's in disrepair, but more important, we're going to talk about the short-term rental update. Michael's been working on this to familiarize himself with the host compliance program we've been using and to look at it and evaluate it for us. So Reed, on the way to start.
Could we do the easy one first? I think that's a no-brainer, the 73 North Cartwright, because that house, after looking at those pictures compared to Conroy, it's much worse shape.
It's pretty bad.
It's bad.
They're tucked back in the woods in the flag lot and hard to see. It's, where it's cozy. It's right in the middle.
Yeah.
And I just, so I just want to make sure we stick to the code and the code requirements. I'm just going to ask them some questions.
Sure.
Okay, make sure we can.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're talking about 73 North Cartwright, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Did you inspect this property upon a complaint or was it based upon your own knowledge?
Complaint.
Okay. And what was the date of the inspection?
June 2nd.
Okay. And what was the condition of the property on that date?
Suspect.
All right. So, but describe it to us. What did you see? What do you observe? A house, a shed, a this, a that, overgrown vegetable?
I went up with the next door neighbor, Jay Damick, because I guess this has been going on for years. Electrical is pulled off the side of the house. There's a hole in the side, literally a hole in the side of the house.
Yes.
We walked to the back door.
You share the pictures, Christina?
See the picture? Okay, let me just take a step back. There was a complaint. You went to the property.
Yeah.
What, the property's improved, correct?
Sorry?
Yes.
The property's improved. There's a house.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's not a lot.
Okay, so there's just one house and that's it.
There's a house and a shed,
House and a shed.
and it's got a 2-car garage up front.
Detached or attached? Okay. And you made observations of the house and what exactly describe the house does?
White 2-story structure. Electrical was turned off by the neighbors, I guess, a few years ago. They call PSE&G. We went to the back door and knocked on the back door. The back door, if you actually look at the picture, is ajar and actually open. You could see the door jamb of the house. So somebody's obviously been in and out of this house. Oh yeah. The roof is in complete disrepair. It's rotted on all sides. That tree, oh, sorry, Christina. That tree is kind of growing into the garage. I didn't try to open the garage. I didn't try to go in the house. I just took the pictures and I was there with Jay and we did yell.
He,
That's the side of the house in that picture, Michael?
that's the side of the house. If you guys look at that, that's the whole side of the house is torn off, and that's the electrical connection. So one of the neighbors noticed that the electrical had gotten torn away, and they were the ones that called PSE&G and just told PSE&G, and I guess PSE&G came out.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want our guys getting killed going inside of this place if it goes up. I've seen a lot of really
Has the neighbor noticed any in and out people cars?
The two daughters were out at some point with the two husbands, and they were claiming they were renovating it.
Okay.
They're not renovating this house.
No.
Okay, and so we know who the owner of the house is?
We think she's dead, actually. Dolores White, but we know there's two daughters and even the address, right? Reed
I had
is doing
tried,
some sleuthing today.
yeah, I had actually tried to get in touch with them shortly after I got here. Christine went to the house because there was a complaint. And we tried to get in touch with them, and I basically found an obituary for a woman that matched the age and the location, Staten Island. Subsequently, I guess the house is actually owned by or there's a mortgage, and the taxes are paid by the bank, and we don't know how to get in touch with them. The address we have for the owner, I think, is is long gone. And actually, I noticed today that it seems to be spelled incorrectly.
Haven't the receiver of taxes have,
No, it gets paid from the bank. We tried to get a copy of them.
Gone to the county clerk's office, see the record.
Well, I went over to Blanca and who's the other nice woman? Oh, and Judith and Anne Marie. And Anne Marie was the one who said, because we thought we can get a copy of the check to pay the taxes and she's like, no, there's a mortgage on the property. The mortgage company is the one.
Right, so we should,
there's no way to.
we should pull the last deed of record from the county clerk's office. So what do you believe created that condition?
It's just neglect. But the problem with this is, so I'm the idiot kid that used to break into houses when I was a kid. So I've fallen through a 2-story. I've fallen through the floor. I've been stuck in basements and this place is, somebody's going to.
accident waiting to happen?
Yeah. And the neighbors, they shouldn't have to put up with this.
So needless to say, do you think the subject structure is dangerous or unsafe?
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
And what corrective steps do you think is required here?
It needs to have you guys go in and it needs to have, or Chief Reed, just to at least look at the property, and it needs to be boarded shut.
No,
Is it salvageable?
it's not salvageable.
Yeah,
That's
so
what you're asking.
it would duplicate very similar to what we did at the Conway House, that a fence type, put it around it.
No, there's nothing.
No, I'm saying, we, as a town.
Oh, that would be
With
good.
the sign, same type of sign, dangerous zone, no trespassing, dangerous. You have to warn the public. I mean, you have to take some measures, responsible measures, keep people out of even entered people, young people like yourself that you admitted to, from going in there because you could end up dead.
You have the authority to condemn the property as an inspector, so you should take that step first.
Yeah, I think we need to take that step. I think probably, depending on how quickly that can happen, we should either have the house torn down if possible.
What is that process to condemn a house?
Fence it.
It's just,
Paperwork?
no, it's his determination that it's unsafe and they just post the property.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then if we tear it down at our expense, a lien be put on the title? Is that how that goes?
That's correct. But
Steps ahead.
that's premature, yeah. But we have to find out who the current owner is, possibly in an estate, so there might be an executor. So we're gonna have to do the research into who owns the property. So, but in the interim, it should be condemned, so.
Okay.
yeah, there is an appeals process. They do have,
Some time.
there is a process. Yeah, they have rights, obviously, to. And
Is the first step in inspection though, just to, and
We've
securing the
inspected it.
property?
Yeah,
You,
yeah.
We've inspected it already.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The reason the Conroy House had to be re-inspected is because Stephen recommended it as a town attorney, saying that the inspection had kind of been, several years ago and it had lapsed.
Oh, right,
We
and then had a,
re-inspected the Conroy House, came up with the same findings, because we went over and found the same findings, wrote that document up, and then we had to reissue, we have to reserve Mr. Conroy, who lives up in Maine, with the same paperwork. And this time we're serving him with pictures of the home so that he can physically see for himself what the house looks like. So should we be fortunate enough to find the owner of 73 North Cartwright, we need to take pictures and have the necessary inspection paperwork done to be able to serve them as well down the road.
Yeah, so he has, state code authority, but also our town code in 45-6 emergency measures to vacate premises. He can immediately post the property as unsafe and its use or occupancy to be prohibited. So I think a meeting like today, we should just post that.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask you out of curiosity on the Conroy House. Did you close the back door?
No.
Back door somehow is, for 3 years, it was open ajar. I mean, it's only open maybe that much.
I think possibly someone younger than I am climbed the fence, but
I don't know who would have done that to close that door.
post the property include fence.
when the house gets posted, are all doors secured? Do we?
No, I mean, that door wasn't secured. It was a fence that was put up, to keep people out with a warning sign. But it physically, well back maybe 3-4 years ago, and we tried closing the door, couldn't close because you wanted to stop any further damage. You're doing the guy a favor, but I couldn't do it.
It's just odd with these properties.
Yeah.
Maybe we should go over, if I can coordinate with Brian to get into the fence, maybe we should secure it, with plywood or something.
That probably might not be a bad idea, to be honest with you. And I think some of that fence might be actually even down. They did clean it up, though. The highway department came in and cleaned it up. They cut the lawns, and neighbors are very appreciative of the fact that the dead limbs were taken and the lawn was cut, and that things are starting to happen.
We shouldn't take those steps until after we have our hearing on Conroy.
Okay.
Like if you believe there was an imminent risk to someone's health, safety, then maybe we can bypass that. But
There are, I'll find it for you. There are specific requirements for securing a house that are in.
board and security and New York State code. All right. I think we're good with this.
Okay, so you're on it. Okay, thank you.
SDRs.
Okay, next is the short-term rentals. The town had signed an agreement with Post Compliant, Granicus Incorporated, to monitor our short-term rentals. We needed help when we went into this, feeling that they can monitor them for us and will work with us. It wasn't really till Michael got here that we really did an in-depth look at, what they're doing for us. So if you guys want to give us a overview of what they're doing and what your recommendations are.
Maybe I'll do a quick intro and then turn it over to Michael. The elevator pitch is that I think it was very useful in the beginning. I think there are some problems with its fit to our community, so that as an ongoing thing, I think we're better off handling it ourselves. I think now that we have Michael, who's got time allotted to really look into this, I think we can do that job better. And I think at this point, now that we have a framework in place, we can avoid some of the pitfalls we had with problems that really came from them not understanding the neighborhood, if that makes sense. But Michael has more specific information.
What do you think about running sort of side by side, Michael and Reed, with this?
Code compliance. For a couple of months to see. And
well, the only thing I would say is that our yearly subscription is up shortly. I think that we've we're pretty certain
Yeah.
that we can let it
I
go.
think it's August 31st, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've been using it, and that's, Michael's been using it. He's taken, we both sort of, I mostly listened, but he was involved with a couple seminars that they've had.
Yeah,
And,
we currently spend $12,132 with them, and we contract for three things: compliance monitoring, rental activity monitoring, and address identification. And the address identification is 7,000 of the 12,000.
And how are you gonna how are we gonna monitor
I think
rentals?
Michael's gonna walk us through that.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, we'll wait until.
Okay, go ahead, sorry.
And, okay, so number one, I'm not good at presenting stuff. So if I do bounce around a little bit, just bear with
Try to
me.
follow.
And if we keep saying that I'm too abrupt, if I'm too abrupt, I'm just doing it because I'm just passing information. I'm not doing it because I'm being rotten or whatever you.
Or we can skip the postmodern introduction.
Right. Okay, so basically we do kind of knows Granicus supplies the slate of services, STR being one of them. They do agenda, meeting management, digital forms and digital communications, records management, website work. They're huge advocates of community outreach, which obviously would work, San Diego or something like that. And actually, it does kind of make sense for us to do community outreach too. But the short-term rentals is only one part of what they do. The host compliance website that we use, you guys have all seen it, correct?
No.
It's not exactly user-friendly. It provides really good information, but it's not interactive. And then you have to spend the time, which I'll show you guys when we go through this, to kind of aggregate to the information you want. That's really good if you have a lot of time to do it, but if you don't have a lot of time to do it, it's hard. It's a little unwieldy. Their platform, actually, the ideas that their platform presents are actually very good ideas, except for they're just, it's hard to actually get that information. Chris didn't use it. Arthur didn't use it. Mary Ellen was the one who really started using it like 4 months ago, because she started playing around with it.
Mm-hmm.
And she started asking the questions. Why is this number this, but that number's that? Those two numbers don't make sense. Mary Ellen's very insightful. She got some good answers on some stuff, which we then were able to use, and some stuff that just wasn't, that just kind of like, well, that's the way it is. Well, we need something, a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
Just as a gloss there, one of the problems we have is that a lot of the information they use is from public.
That was next.
Yeah, public sources, and it's not necessarily reliable. We found that they use old dates, old addresses, they have old information, and that leads to problems because they'll just send a letter out without checking.
So what is the whole concept based on? They look at ads and see who.
Let's go through this really quickly because it won't take long.
Okay.
And then we can kind of go. So kind of going to that, I would say that 98%, 95% of the stuff that we get from them is from Airbnb and VRBO. Yeah, there's a couple of other ones. Of course, I can't remember them. Whatever. There's a few other ones, but let's even say it's 80% from Airbnb and VRBO. My question to Stephen for the last couple of months has been, how can Airbnb and VRBO put these places up for rent when they know that we require that they have a rental registry number, and that rental registry number isn't posted there? All of our real estate brokers on Shelter Island call and ask us, what's the rental registration number for 8 Brander? It's 000L0001. And they post it. These companies aren't required to post it, and it doesn't make sense to me.
Because they put it on the burden on the owner of the house. That they say, they have like a catch-all, you must comply with all local regulations.
But that's,
They don't oversee it, they don't monitor it, and they,
then can't we say to them, they can't post Shelter Island because we want to put the onus on them? I can't order pot from Massachusetts and have it shipped to Shelter Island. I don't smoke pot. I'm just using that as an example. But if I call Massachusetts and I go, ship it to 22 West Neck,
Breaking the house.
box.
You know where, you know.
Second chance.
Do you know we're recording and we're on TV?
Not that.
I know a priest, you can go to confession, don't.
Okay, whatever. So let's go back to this. I can't buy pot. I can't even buy wine from Oregon because it's against the law for them to ship. So I do think that's
something we can pursue and I.
It messes us up.
for Airbnb and, you know,
They're still in business.
yes.
Because it's big money.
It comes down to enforcement, going after the residents or the absentee landlords that are putting them.
Well, there's one problem that we've had too, which is they will report a property that has and they will write a threatening letter to the owner because they find a rental. Well, there are a surprising number of bogus ads that are placed on VRBO by malefactors who have nothing to do with the house at all, and it's a scam. And so the owners of a house that hasn't been rented periodically get a letter saying, from them saying you're renting your home illegally, the letter that we originally crafted was a little bit brutal, tactless, I would say. And so then these people who are, going about their business, not renting their homes on VRBO, get a scary letter. We're trying to avoid that sort of thing. But there are a surprising number of bogus ads on these online.
Are you getting complaints independent of the system about short-term rentals?
Let's keep going with this and then let's go back to that. 'Cause that's going to kind of a little bit that is going to get covered in here. Again, it's 2 pages. This is going to take me 5 minutes to go through, but some of those questions are going to be answered. I looked at 2 websites, total households here, it's about 1,000, give or take, population about 3,200. Total number of houses somewhere around 2,200 or 2,300.
Wait a minute, stop. The 1,000 is what? There's 1,000 houses?
No.
Oh,
households.
Year-round.
Year-round families, whatever.
Where?
On Shelter Island.
That's not right.
That's not, yeah.
Well, you figure husband, wife, kid, 2 kids.
You're talking about year-round.
What's our yearly?
That's 1,800.
You're talking about the year-round population.
No, year-round population, I thought our year-round was about 3,000 now.
Yeah.
3,200.
But then what I'm saying is you're saying year-round households.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's.
It's 1,000 year round.
Based on the census?
It's 2020 or 2022. I looked at something on Wikipedia, believe it or not, a lot of information on there, and some other website. But that's not really relevant. How about the total number of houses, guys, on the island? About 2,300,
Okay.
give or take.
All right.
Okay.
And how many are registered? Or you get?
Well, we may get to that point. So bouncing around again, what Chief Reed had said, I guess, a couple of meetings ago when discussing short-term rentals. How many complaints have we had in the last 2 summers? It hasn't been many. It was less than 7. It was less than 7. But these guys.
The complaints are based on noise or activity. We have a housing crisis.
Yes.
Is added to and water issues that we're discussing. So if people in fact are going to do this, then they have to do it legally.
Oh, 100%.
And it can't be just complaint driven.
Let's keep going. So let's just say the number is 7 to 8. Okay, Mary Ellen, where's Mary Ellen? So let's go through our stuff, just not Granicus related. So between January 1st of 2020 and 12/31/2021. So that 2-year period.
Pandemic.
Granted, in a new pandemic, which changed the whole complexion of the island, our total number of rental permits issued was 316.
That's
Those are permits.
Permits issued.
short-term and long-term.
Short-term, but don't forget, we were kind of blending short-term, long-term originally, then it was vacation, then it was short-term. Now it seems like we've gotten a vacation owner occupied.
And what's the variance?
Exemption and long-term.
Okay, but what's the variance of that number permitted versus actually being rented?
Well, that's where kind of the total number of households and rentals are coming in. We'll have to extrapolate a little bit. And Granicus is going to come into that
I was
also.
just going to ask, they don't give you that? They don't,
They don't.
they say,
And the
they say out of
numbers-
compliance, don't they give you?
It's 152 is what they say this month.
All right.
Is out of compliance.
And when we think of 152 is, it's not a big number, but we probably have 100 open permits. And I can tell you part of the reason why we have 152. But a lot of those, BJ, it's people, they forget to re-up the permit. They have open permits and they don't want to.
Like you said, the realtors insist that they have.
Right, let's go back to this again. In 2020 and 2021, we had a total of 21 vacation rentals that paid us the $150. 21.
Good Lord.
Yeah. So that's a bit alarming.
Wait, can you say what you just said?
We did 21 paid. So that was 21
Vacation
vacation or short-term rentals over that period. But we're gearing up, we're trying.
That's for last year.
20 and 21. So this year so far. We have, well, if we start, let's keep going. Total number of rental permits issued this year. So we're already into almost July, 88. Of the 88, 17 are short-term that we get paid. The other 71 are long-term rentals. Mostly a couple of owner occupied and a couple of homesteaders, not many.
By the way,
Define long-term.
by the way, just to clarify something. When we passed this latest legislation, we didn't separate necessarily short and long-term rentals. Everybody that was renting needed to apply.
Yeah.
So we were figuring on this island, it was somewhere between 250 and maybe 300 people that were renting either short-term or long-term.
Mhm.
The pandemic had an impact on less short-term, which the trend was going to short-term because people were making more money in short-term than you would in long-term rental.
Right.
It's one of the reasons why people decided I can make more money in 3 months than I can in 12 months by renting it to a teacher or somebody else.
Right.
So the pendulum swung back during the pandemic, and it seems to stay that way. I must admit that the number of people who, again, being president of Silver Beach, we have dozens and dozens of rentals in Silver Beach. Very, very, very few complaints from people about rental properties. We had one last year, which we knew about, which we addressed. But by and large, the amount of the noise and the abuses and things like that, you could count on two hands. It wasn't a lot of problems for the town.
Right.
But one of the things I was concerned about, of course, is paying, if we thought that this gratis was important to us in terms of helping us enforce, we figured out that over a 2-year period, if everybody paid their $250 or whatever it was, over the course of 2 years, regardless of rental, whether you were short or long-term. And we did have that one grandfather thing that we brought in about people that financially
Homesteaders.
they were
hardship.
Those were hardship cases. And we only had basically in hardship cases 4, 5, or 6. Any 1 year since we passed that 3 years ago. There weren't a lot of people that applied for the hardship. But one of the things we talked about was trying to pay off the $12,000 loan without using taxpayer money and say, well, the people that are, as Jerry would say, the same thing with the recycling thing and everything else, is that the people that were enjoying the benefits of renting in the home to ask for $250 over a 2-year period, $125 a year, that would be part of an evening for most,
Yeah,
for most
exactly.
homes, that it was a reasonable amount. One of the things that we heard that was an issue with this rental thing, which I was concerned about from a liability point of view, is that our law read that it was, rather than us sending building department people into every rental on Shelter Island to find out if they have carbon monoxide and smoke detectors and fences and this, that, and the other thing, is to have a self-evaluation that the people would have done and that they would have certified that in fact they met all of this criteria. One of the things that the town attorney brought up to me, I would say, Stephen, probably a couple of months back was, Jim, and I think, Reed, I think you also mentioned it today. What happens, God forbid, that we accept this? We issue the permit. The town issues the permit. Takes the saying, well, these things have been satisfied, and they haven't been satisfied. And God forbid, something, a serious accident or a death.
What's the liability?
What's the liability?
Yeah.
So that was a real concern of mine when we started looking at this. I'm not looking as a one town board member to make this complicated. My personal feeling was on it, the people that we had initially, before you got here, that were in charge of administering this program, never really bought into it anyhow. So their heart and soul really was not in, they were the compliance people. And although we can designate somebody as a compliance person, unless you believe in it and really try to make and understand the program and make maximum use of the program, if then you turn around to the town board and say, you know, town board, I've worked with this for 5 months, 6 months. It's not, here's where it works and here's where it doesn't work. We're spending $12,000. We cut this down to $4,000 because only this one piece is necessary. You don't need the other two pieces because we can do it better. I begged for some type of feedback on reports, and we'd say we get that information because you're dealing with taxpayer money, and we want the system to work to the best of our abilities. And we're not looking in any way, shape, or form to make a mountain out of a molehill when it comes to rental property. Rental properties are important to the economy. They're important to people, and we support it 100%. We just wanted to put a system in place that when we hired these people, that they could help us in terms of gathering information in a timely fashion so that it would cut down on the amount of hours that we would have to do in order to enforce this.
The system does work and it is very good, except for, so let's just forget about this. I just don't think it's
needed for.
It's worth that much money, but it is good and it is smart. And
we can use the model.
Said, right. Everything that Jim has said is 100% true. I've been going through the state training for the last 3 weeks or so. And we've heard certainly more than 10 times or whatever, is don't look for trouble. And you don't want to look for trouble because you don't know what the can of worms, and it kind of comes out in training in a whole different ways. You have enough to do. Don't look for trouble. If something is reported or whatever, obviously it's your responsibility. I'm 100%. I hate the idea of short-term rentals. So just coming at it.
Our biggest concern was noise complaint. I'll tell you, the amount of noise complaints we've had on rental properties has been minor.
Right.
The biggest problem that I see, that I get feedback from people when I walk around and people stop you and ask you, share their concerns, is the fact that, hey, Jim, that house I know has 3 bedrooms.
How do you?
And 6 adults. How come there are 6 cars in there and I see 12 or 15 people in the backyard?
Different cars every week.
I went to a house at Bootleggers twice in the last 2 weeks.
Because environmentally, that's just
cars that they haven't started. No, and we can't push that much stress. You guys have. I've been sitting there and we've been touching on water, septic, water, salting wells, doing whatever. And people don't realize.
The one thing I will say is that practically, to answer your question, it's extremely hard to regulate things like number of cars, driving. As often as not, when you go there, you find that they have a bunch of families visiting and they're packing them in. There's a real balance to be struck here. And I very much see both sides of this issue, and ultimately, one way or another, our opinions don't matter. If we're here to regulate something, we're here to regulate something. But the issue is, there's a balance to be made between homeowners' rights and intrusiveness, and enforcing community and community standards.
Yeah.
But the vocalness of the complainant and the certainty of the complainant that there is a violation is not necessarily in direct proportion to the evidence. And in many cases, it's extremely difficult to enforce this without being extremely intrusive.
Does Granicus not give you this information that Joe Blow rented it weekend A, weekend B, it was John Smith?
They do give us,
And so they're out of compliance in that very basic.
they do give us that information, but not in a reliable enough
It's hard to
way.
aggregate.
I recommend that we stop this conversation and table it. I'm going to be meeting with Reed and Mike tomorrow, and I haven't yet had an opportunity to see the system. In my former life, I'm sort of an expert in it.
Yep.
So I just want an opportunity to stick my teeth into it and work with them on it, and then we can come back and update you.
Yeah, 'cause
I like that idea because we're
So just so everybody understands, we're not looking at it from the point of view that, we're getting a lot of complaints or we're not getting a lot of complaints. We just want to make sure everybody's in compliance, because God forbid there is an accident and
Well, if you want to make sure that everyone's in compliance, there's really no way to do it with self-certification.
Oh, I agree.
And that's one thing that we did get out of Granicus from one of their
It was horrifying.
the seminars, is that you either regulate something or you don't.
Yeah.
You don't half regulate it. And the liability,
And once you acknowledge something.
because very often I just know him, yeah.
that your feedback, Stephen, would be important. But if we truly have 250, 300 rentals and you had to go back and actually make the physical inspections on all of these things, wow. But that would involve.
No, but the alternative
It's
is
a bigger fee.
no. But no.
We're usually, it's only 150.
The alternative is that you have to offer them, if you're going to require an inspection, you have to offer them the out of having a licensed architect or engineer fully certified, put their license on that property fully complies with the New York State Uniform Fire Protection.
Well, we know nobody's going to do that.
So that's what we may have to discuss. If we want to do that.
But it's a great suggestion. I love your idea of tabling
Yeah,
this.
so let's table this for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Let me, work with that again.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Good luck with the test tomorrow.
Yeah.
I need Christina to come by and help me.
Okay, next on the agenda is, we have a town board meeting Friday, and I just want to go over a couple of things that are on the agenda for Friday. We had the special permit application for 2 Jasper Row LLC. We had the hearing for that. We closed the hearing. Matt Sherman had sent the letter. He addressed all the concerns that were in it. So I just want to make sure going Friday, there's no something outstanding on that one. Don, what else do we have for Friday that we need to be ready for? And while Dottie's looking, I'd remind everyone that if you have anything for her, it has to be in by end of day tomorrow. So
That's the last one.
Or sooner.
anything else that we have to?
We have a lot of appointments tomorrow, Friday. We have
Okay.
all the lifeguards and all the beach people.
Yep.
We got return deposits and so forth for outdoor assemblies and things like that. You got, what's the status of Valentino? That public hearing was closed too. And we
Yeah.
never-
When's that?
Valentino.
It's a wetlands application.
Right. Oh, shoot. Well, do you want to, we'll look into it and
I will.
get to you. Jim is going to look into it.
Yeah.
All right, good. Thanks for bringing that one to our attention.
You want to act on the fireworks, we got to do that quick because they're
Yes,
that's coming up
yes,
fast. Yes.
yes.
We're gonna set the new dates on Friday.
No, that's what I was gonna ask, Todd. Yeah, I was gonna bring it up when we go around. We're gonna set the new meeting dates, right?
Yes.
That Amber worked on? Okay, yeah, Dot. Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
Otherwise, we,
the-
pardon?
Sorry, go ahead.
and then Stephen, the one question I have for you is, that, bulkhead application.
Divine?
Yes.
We just got it.
Yeah, well, I'll talk to you offline on that.
Okay, do we need it for Friday though?
No.
Okay.
But we may, well, I'll talk to you offline.
Okay. Okay. That's it for me. Jim?
Again, I want, I know I brought it up about 4 weeks ago about the gun control thing. I just wanted one comment. I want to thank the United States Congress and for the number of senators that got together and were able to pass a bipartisan bill that actually addressed some gun control measures. Now, obviously, it annoyed both sides because I didn't get nearly enough and the other side saying any legislation is too much. But for the same people that are in the middle, it represents, in my eyes, a major step forward to protecting all of us, children in school and people in shopping malls and everything else. So, you know what? The lesson here on the town board is, and what we just talked about with short-term rentals, was the extremes. We dealt with people in the middle, we compromised. And learning to compromise and being able to compromise was what make this country better, not the fighting at either end, whether it's on any of these issues, local issues or national issues. The other thing is I attended a Zoom meeting last Friday with the Shelter Island Health Alliance. They are starting and I want this to be understood by the public, grief counseling. This is about their 5th or 6th session that they're working with, primarily with adults that have lost spouses. That's both Bonnie and Nancy that do this grief counseling. This is what they do in professional life. It's a 6-week program. It's held on Fridays in the afternoon, about an hour and a half session each. And I will tell you that the people that have been through grief counseling have benefited tremendously from it. So, the mental health issues here on the island are something we've had a tremendous amount of death of senior citizens, either husband or wife. So I just want the public to know that if you are hurting and you are feeling grief and struggling, and this is particularly during the pandemic, please reach out to the Senior Center and to Lori Finelli and ask about the grief counseling. We'll be starting up in July and going through early August. We'll probably have a second session in early August through September. So I just make that everybody aware of that. And last but not least, I talk a little bit about Long Island Water Reuse Map and Action Plan. I went yesterday on a 2-hour Zoom sponsored by Cameron Engineering, CTUC, and Green Tree. Joe and I talked a lot about the presentation. Stella joined me on that, particularly with the Heights Treatment Plant. So we were looking at that. I have some good information about that I'll share with you in the future. Our grading didn't come out quite as well as we expected. And Stella pointed out to the group yesterday that there's a lot of misinformation pertaining to the treatment plant. So we have 2-week period of time to resubmit some of our data, which we are planning on doing in the hopes that our grade will in fact improve. I will tell you that a vast majority of these projects, and they are 60, 70, 80 of these projects are golf courses. If they're not golf courses and about water reuse and irrigating golf courses, they're athletic fields. They comprise well over 90% of the projects that were looked at yesterday, golf courses and athletic fields. This is something that obviously involves a golf course, but we're still working on that project. So I was, these grants are very competitive. There's money's available. People are asking for anywhere from $30,000, $50,000 to $24 million on these projects. They're looking to select a couple of projects initially. We had the deputy county supervisor on there yesterday. He's eager to see a couple of these projects up and running. So, and by the way, I think Joe and I both acknowledged this is just one vehicle for us to consider. But I'm hoping that Jerry, myself, Joe, Stephen, Stella, and maybe somebody else from the Heights can sit down and soon and take a look at. And I sent you an email on this and I don't know if I CC'd Stephen, but I sent it to the rest of us about some of the options we have available, some of the things that we have to, just clean up with that project a little bit, how to expand the project. Looking at options are very important. But, and then Joe and I had keep repeating the cost of the project, is very, very high. But there is money available, and we have to, I'm not abandoning. I personally have been involved with it for 3 years. I don't want to abandon it, but on the same token, it has to be worthwhile for the town to get involved with. There are certain carrots that would trigger that. And there's a lot of things that came up yesterday during this meeting that we could irrigate other things other than just the golf course, by the way. Whether it's Prospect Park, when you come off the ferry or other things, sharing that water, even with the country club, there are other things that we can look at in terms of making maximum use of all of the effluent that is processed, and now it's going to be treated. It would be treated in a tertiary treatment. But big stumbling block, of course, is to get through the second feasibility study, which again, we have to find money for, and we're still pursuing that. So that's the next real hurdle. But I would like to lay our cards all on the table from the town and the Heights to be able to have an honest conversation about this project so that we're all on the same sheet of music. All right, that's all. Thank you. Thanks, Jim.
There's more from the WAC meeting yesterday.
Yes.
That's particularly just to reiterate that, we're at guarded if the declining of the levels in the wells persists into July, the WAC will probably come to the town board. So there's that. The USGS real-time monitoring that was mentioned earlier today, within 3 months, 1 or 2 units should be functioning. And Deering Harbor may be the first. And then Peter Grand said that we really should make it known to the U.S. Geological Survey that for us, it's the big 4 wells that are the priorities in terms of getting them online for real-time monitoring. The draft criteria and that we just discussed, and Joe saying that sort of the significant outstanding question here is communication. Lisa Shaw felt that neighbor to neighbor is not a bad thing, not go over and fight with your neighbor, not shame them, but just to sort of walk over and say, notice your sprinkler is, leaking, making a puddle in the road. That means you're probably overwatering or not watering correctly. And also mentioned that maybe the vehicle for that may be speaking at HOA meetings, at the various HOA meetings and just saying, members, that maybe you would like to do this in your neighborhood. It's only to your benefit. It's not for any other reason. Someone else on the WAC said, no, not happening. It just people wouldn't feel comfortable.
Well, that came up there like this, there's 200 and some odd members to the Silver Beach Association. Couldn't go door to door, but Peter said if you can put it in the newsletter, or just a reminder.
Well, working with homeowners, the young people coming on board as Jim Colligan leaves after 12 years, have phenomenal ideas about communication.
Right.
I think our communication skills at Silver Beach are going to improve dramatically.
So using the HOAs to get this word out.
Oh, absolutely. We had a cocktail party last Friday night that we had 60, 70 people to.
Mm-hmm.
That they want to discuss these issues.
Mm-hmm.
They want these issues. We had Joe in last year.
Right.
Joe centered it. He could have spent 5 hours addressing their questions. He was very good. This year we have Tim Pertel coming in, talking about green options and things that, but we're very much centered on the environment.
Right.
And by the way, that kind of cooperation, you don't know unless you try.
Yeah. That's what I say.
So sometimes somebody could be rude back to you, but, so listen, I'm not doing this. It's informational and just trying to point something out there, yeah.
So, then on the irrigation sunset, the whole question of irrigation, should we have it? Joe's, sort of idea, or observation, I should say, that we outsource the filling of our pools to our neighbors on the North Fork. All of those issues, I thought it was left that Peter and Joe were going to develop an outline of how do we attack this topic. Okay, so that's, I don't think that was brought up earlier today. Hopefully Joe is still watching on TV. They've been doing a series of library talks, the WAC. So there was one in June, there'll be one in July and one in August. August to be determined, but July is the 14th. And it's Lisa Shaw and Joe, and the title is What Are We Drinking Tonight? So it'll be about water quality. Okay.
Wine and roses?
Yeah. So geothermal, you know, it's a topic we opened up. We've deferred it till John Holman can come and chat with us about the original thinking behind the ban on geothermal. Martha's Vineyard, we're exploring what they've done. WAC is exploring what Martha's Vineyard has done in terms of restricting pesticides and fertilizers, but mostly fertilizers. And I think we just opened up that topic. It will take some time to get through it. I'll tell you, the regulations, when you read them, are juicy. And by that, I mean, I don't even know how you would begin to enforce such a thing. But maybe, if you did these restrictions, that would be enough to eliminate some significant amount of them, if not all of them, is maybe the thought. This was really good news. I mean, I don't think I missed this, Jim, that Joe Spinora said that the grant applications have been completed and mailed for the assistance to cover the cost of the West Neck water improvements. And should they get them, they could literally cover almost all of it. So fingers crossed, and good job again by Jen to just get the applications out in a timely manner.
Yeah, and if I just, whether it's LDR or whoever it was, they kept on me with that. I made a commitment 2 months ago saying, when that ink is dry, we can then formally apply, which thank God the timing was such because the deadline was coming up with that grant application.
Yep.
We got it in again. Couldn't do these things without that part-time grant. That she brings some of that money in to cover that, covers her for 5 years of, cost of what we pay just on one project.
Oh, yeah.
So she's a godsend, and
it'll be brilliant.
Yeah, it will be anything major. The people will applaud, we'll continue to work away at it.
Yeah, it's really good stuff.
Yeah.
We had CPAC last night, but I'm not ready to unpack it.
Right.
I like that. Unpack CPAC.
Okay. Stephen, anything?
No, Mr. Supervisor.
So tomorrow you have a sit down with the building department?
Yes, I called it Read a Palooza, and it's read all day.
Okay.
So.
All right. And Joe and I
heard he was really looking forward to it.
Yeah. Joe and I are going out on the water tomorrow to survey the island waters.
There you go.
We're not allowed to bring fishing poles.
Or
Stephen, do you have
coolers.
anything for us? Good. Okay. Julia, anything?
Nothing for me. Thank you, Jerry. Not right now. Thanks very much, Jerry.
Okay. Patty, anything else before we ask the audience?
No, thanks.
Okay. Anybody in the audience have anything?
Christina, can we put the
Okay. If not, I will make a
gallery? Yeah, but
Executive. Oh, the hand. Is that Pam's hand? Yeah.
I don't see a hand.
okay.
What's that?
Such a cursor.
Oh.
All right. I make a motion. We adjourn.
Oh, you're right.
Seven.
All those in favor? Aye. No, we're not having an executive session.
Yeah, we don't have two of the members, so I think,
We're going to postpone it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.